A husband and wife were grocery shopping when the husband picked up a case of Budweiser and placed it in the cart. "What do you think you're doing?" asked the wife. "It's on sale, only $10 for a case," he replies. "We can't afford it, put it back," demands the wife. They continue shopping, and a few minutes later, the wife puts a $20 jar of face cream into the cart. "What do you think you're doing?" asks the husband. "It's my face cream. It makes me look beautiful," replies the wife. "So does the Budweiser, and it's half the price," retorts the husband. Wife: "I have a lot of my own clothes I'd like to donate." Husband: "Why bother? It's easier to throw the clothes in the garbage can." Wife: "Don't be selfish. There are so many poor people who have no clothes and are starving." Husband: "Honey, anyone who fits into your clothing is not starving." I asked my wife where she wanted to go for dinner. She suggested, "How about one of those places where they make your food right in front of you?" So I took her to Subway. And that's how the fight started. My wife's sister visited us yesterday in her brand new Porsche. Astonished, my wife asked her, "How could you afford this?" "You know, a blowjob every now and again makes my husband very generous," she replied. Surprised, my wife turned to me and winked. "I think I'll start doing that." "Me too," I replied, turning to my sister-in-law. "What's your husband's number?" Easy way to search for your wife. A man approached a very beautiful woman in the large supermarket and said, "I've lost my wife here in the supermarket. Can you talk to me for a couple of minutes?" The woman looked puzzled. "Why talk to me?" she asked. "Because every time I talk to a woman with like yours, my wife appears out of nowhere." A man visits the supermarket and spots an attractive woman who greets him with a wave. She offers a friendly hello. He is somewhat surprised as he cannot recall where he might have met her before. In response, he asks, "Do we know each other?" She answers, "I believe you are the father of one of my students." At that moment, his thoughts drift back to the only occasion he was unfaithful to his wife, and he exclaims, "Goodness, are you the exotic dancer from my bachelor party with whom I had an encounter on the pool table while my friends looked on and your partner playfully hit me with wet celery?" She gazes into his eyes and replies calmly, "No, I am your son's teacher." One day, a husband telephones his wife, but his daughter answers, "Hello." "Hey, honey, this is Daddy. Is Mommy near the phone?" "No, Daddy, she's upstairs jaying the bedroom with Uncle Jake." "But you don't have an Uncle Jake, sweetie." "Oh yes, I do. And he's upstairs in the bedroom with Mommy right now." "Okay, honey, I need you to go near the bedroom and shout, 'Daddy's car just pulled into the driveway,' and then come back and call me." A few minutes later, the daughter calls back. "I did it, Daddy." "Well, what happened?" "Mommy got scared, started running around, tripped and hit her head, and now she isn't moving." "Oh my God, and what about Uncle Jake?" "He too got scared, jumped out of the window into the swimming pool, but he forgot you took out the water last week and now he isn't moving as well." "Wait a minute, my house doesn't have a swimming pool. Wait, is this 351 to 7,381 inches? A man had a habit of giving a beggar $1,000 every month. This went on for a long time. and the beggar grew accustomed to this generosity. However, one day, the man handed the beggar only $750. The beggar was surprised but thought $750 is still more than nothing, and accepted the money without complaint. A month later, the man gave only $500. The beggar was taken aback and, feeling a bit uneasy, asked the man, "You used to give me $1,000, then $750, and now it's only $500. Why the change? Can you explain?" The man sighed and replied, "In the past, when my children were young, I was in a better financial situation, so I gave you $1,000, but then my daughter went to university, and her tuition fees were high, so I had to reduce it to $750. Now, my second son is also in university, and the costs have risen further, so I'm only able to give $500. The beggar, still puzzled, asked, "How many children do you have?" The man answered, "4. The beggar raised an eyebrow and said, "So, will you continue educating all your children at my expense?" Sometimes people come to view your kindness and generosity as an obligation rather than a gift, forgetting that it comes from your heart, not their entitlement. My wife is an economist and I am an engineer. I was watching my wife make her breakfast one morning and noticed that she made way too many trips to get each of the items she needed. So I said in my best engineer voice, "Hey sweetheart, why don't you utilize the load maximization principle and carry all the items you need in one trip, thereby minimizing total distance traveled?" Well, don't you know, she loved my suggestion. It used to take her 11 minutes to make her breakfast. Now I do it in 5. A woman strolls into a busy restaurant, followed by 15 energetic kids who immediately start goofing around as she tries to place an order with the waitress. Growing impatient, the mom finally yells, "Eddie, stop that, or else!" Instantly, all 15 boys freeze, sit down, and fall silent. The waitress, looking puzzled, asks, "Wait, did you really name all of your boys Eddie?" "Yup," the woman replies, "makes it easier than trying to remember who's who every time." The waitress chuckles and asks, "But what if you only need to talk to one of them?" With a grin, the mom says, "Oh, that's easy. I just call them by their last names." The IRS suspected that a fishing boat owner wasn't properly compensating his deckhand, so they sent an agent to investigate. IRS agent: "I need a list of your employees and details on their wages." Boat owner: "Well, there's Clarence, my deckhand. He's been with me for 3 years. I pay him $1,000 a week, plus free room and board. Then there's the other guy. He works about 18 hours a day, handles around 90% of the workload, and earns about $30 a week. He covers his own room and board, and every Saturday night I get him a bottle of Bacardi and a dozen Budweisers to help him get through the week. Oh, and he occasionally gets to sleep with my wife." IRS agent: "That's the guy I need to speak with, the one being taken advantage of." Boat owner: "That would be me. What do you want to know?" A man finds out his wife is cheating on him. So he walks into a bar. The bartender asks, "Why are you looking so blue?" The man replies, "I just found out my wife is cheating on me. I've decided I'm going to drink myself to death. I'll have some whiskey, please." The bartender looks shocked and says, "I'm sorry, but I can't help you kill yourself." The man asks, "Well, what would you do in my situation?" The bartender thinks for a bit and says, "If I found out a guy was sleeping with my wife, I wouldn't sit around feeling sorry for myself. I'd kill the guy." The man jumps up from his stool and shouts, "That's a great idea. "Thanks," and runs out of the bar. A couple hours goes by and the bartender is starting to get nervous. Suddenly, the man walks back into the bar with a big smile on his face. "Did you kill the guys?" The bartender asks nervously. "Nope, I slept with your wife. Whiskey, please." Ethel checked into a motel on her 70th birthday. Feeling a bit lonely, yet adventurous, she decided to spice things up. "I'll call one of those professional massage guys from the phone book," she thought. Flipping through the pages, she spotted a full-page ad for a man calling himself Tender Tony, a strikingly handsome gentleman flexing in the photo. He had all the right muscles in all the right places, thick wavy hair, powerful legs, a dazzling smile, and six-pack abs. She was quite certain a dime could bounce right off his well-toned physique. "Why not?" she mused. "No one will ever know." She picked up the phone and dialed. "Good evening, ma'am. How may I assist you?" Came a deep, velvety voice. Oh my, he sounded so dreamy. Afraid she'd lose her nerve, she blurted out, "I hear you give amazing massages. I'd like you to come to my motel room and give me one." "No, wait, let me be honest. I'm in town alone, and what I really want is some fun. I want excitement, I want adventure, and I want it now. Bring everything you've got, I'm ready." A brief pause. Then he chuckled and said, "That sounds fantastic, ma'am, but you need to press 9 for an outside line." Mrs. Jones wanted a picture for her living room. She took the bus and went to town. She looked for a picture shop, and after a few minutes, she found one. There were some pictures in the window, but she did not like them very much. She went into the shop and looked at some other pictures. She liked some of those more. There was a picture of a young girl, and Mrs. Jones liked it very much. She went to the shopkeeper and said, "How much do you want for this picture?" The shopkeeper turned the picture round. He looked at the back of it and then said, £13. £30, Mrs. Jones said. "That's very expensive. I'm going to offer you £20 for it." "I said £13, not £30, the man answered. "13? Mrs. Jones said. "Then I'm going to offer you £9 for it." Elizabeth was a very pretty girl, and her parents were rich. Quite a lot of the young men in the town wanted to marry her, but she was not satisfied with any of them. One evening, one of the most handsome of the young men who wanted to marry Elizabeth came to visit her in her parents' house and asked her to become his wife. She answered, "No, William, I won't marry you. I want to marry a man who is famous, who can play music, sing and dance very well, who can tell really interesting stories, who does not smoke or drink, who stays at home in the evenings, and who stops talking when I'm tired of listening." The young man got up, took his coat and went to the door, but before he left the house, he turned and said to Elizabeth, "It isn't a man you're looking for. It's a television set." Some villagers were going to celebrate an important wine festival in a few days' time, so they borrowed a huge barrel from the nearest town, put it in the village square, and determined that each of them should empty a bottle of the best wine he had into it, so that there should be plenty at the feast. One of the villagers thought he would be very clever. "If I pour a bottle of water in instead of wine, no one will notice it," he said to himself, "because there will be so much excellent wine in the barrel that the water will be lost in it." The night of the feast arrived. Everybody gathered in the village square with their jugs and their glasses for wine. The tap on the barrel was opened, but what came out was pure water. Everyone in the village had had the same idea. Teacher: "Why didn't you study?" Student: "Well, let me break it down for you. There are 365 days in a year. After taking away 52 Sundays, we're left with 313 days. Now, factor in the 50 days of summer, way too hot to study. And we're down to 163 days. We sleep 8 hours a day, which adds up to 122 days gone. That leaves 141 days. If I spend just 1 hour a day messing around, that's another 15 days gone, leaving us with 126 days. Eating takes up 2 hours a day, so subtract 30 more days, and we're left with 96. Then I spend 1 hour each day talking to friends and family, which knocks off another 15 days, leaving us with 81. Exams? They easily take 35 days, so we're down to 46. Then come holidays, about 40 days. And now there are just 6 days left. If I get sick for 3 days, we're down to 3 days. Let's say I go out twice. That leaves me with just 1 day to study. But that day, it's my birthday. And that's why I didn't study. A TV crew went to interview the oldest man living in a small village. Can you tell us what was the happiest moment you can remember? That was when Mary Jones got lost on the hills over there. We organised a search party, and when we found her, we were so happy that we had a special celebration. Everybody got drunk, and all the men in the village f***ed Mary Jones. Well, we can't publish a story like that. Can you tell us about any other happy moment? When Jeff Smith's goat got lost on the hills, we organised a search party. When we found her, we celebrated. Everybody got drunk and we all f***ed Jeff Smith's goat. Okay, enough of happy endings. Can you tell us what was the saddest day in this village? That was when I got lost on the hills. A man was on trial for murder, and if convicted, would get the life imprisonment. His brother found out that an Irish man was on the jury and figured he would be the one to bribe. He told the Irishman that he would be paid £10,000 if he could convince the rest of the jury to reduce the charge to manslaughter. The jury was out an entire week and returned with a verdict of manslaughter. After the trial, the brother went to the Irishman's house, told him what a great job he had done, and paid him £10,000. The Irishman replied, "It wasn't easy to convince the rest of the jury to change the charge to manslaughter. They all wanted to let him off." A 95-year-old man and his 94-year-old wife see a lawyer about a divorce. The lawyer asks them when they got married. "I was 19 inches, says the man. "That means you've been married for 75 years at least," the lawyer points out. "Yes, and all of it misery," says the woman. "Really? When did you start to regret the marriage?" "Almost immediately," says the man. "I hated her after about 2 years, and every year it gets worse. Everything about her is obnoxious and irritating." "Oh," says the woman, "I lasted 3 years, but after that, tolerating him in any way has been a huge problem. He has awful habits and treats me like trash." The lawyer thinks for a moment. "Well, I can help you to get divorced, but why did you wait so long to apply for one if you've hated each other the whole time?" She says, "We were waiting for the children to die." 3 friends, all vampires, decided to have a competition to see who was the fastest and most daring among them. The first vampire stepped up. "Watch this," he said confidently. He took off, flying at 100 miles per hour. 10 minutes later, he returned with a smug look on his face. The others asked, "What did you do?" "See that house over there?" he said, pointing. They nodded. "Well, I swooped in, startled everyone inside, and flew out before they even knew what happened." The others were impressed. "Not bad," the second vampire grinned. "Now watch this." He launched into the air, flying at 120 miles per hour. In just 5 minutes, he was back, looking even prouder than the first. The others asked, "What did you do?" "See that village over there?" he said, pointing. They nodded eagerly. "Well, I zipped through every street so fast that people barely saw me coming." The first vampire clapped. Impressive! Finally, the third vampire smirked. All right, get ready for this. He shot into the sky at 140 miles per hour. But barely 30 seconds later, he crashed back down, dazed and covered in dirt and leaves. The others gasped. What happened? See that huge tree over there? He asked. Yeah. Well, I didn't. A farmer approaches his best friend's wife one day when her husband is at the office. Will you have sex with me? He asks. No, my husband wouldn't approve. Okay, what if I give you $1,000? Well, for a $1,000 I think I will. Come back tomorrow afternoon when my husband is at work. So the man shows up next day and slaps $1,000 on the table, and they do whatever it was they did. In the evening, her husband comes home a little distraught. Was my best friend here today? Yes, his wife says with concern. And did he leave $1,000? Yes, she says, expecting the worst. Oh, good. What a great pal he is. He came in this morning and asked if he could borrow $1,000 from me and promised to return it this afternoon. 3 rednecks are celebrating in a bar. They order a round of drinks and toast. 59 days with a great deal of gusto. After they do this several times, the bartender asks why they are celebrating. One of the rednecks says it only took the 3 of us 59 days to work this puzzle. The bartender says that doesn't sound like much of an accomplishment to me. Then one redneck says, the heck it isn't. On the box it says 3 to 5 years,